Welcome to this webinar, the most overlooked part in positive reinforcement horse training. So let's start and take a moment to talk about the disappointments that we all encounter sometimes in equine clicker training. Because clicker training can really feel like a struggle. You can feel frustrated, or your horse gets frustrated and you don't know what to do or how you can prevent your horse from getting frustrated. The process may go way slower than you expected, and I hear people say all the time, oh, positive reinforcement takes more time than negative reinforcement training. I don't agree with that, although I see it happen, and I know it can go even faster than negative reinforcement training. Or people don't know where to start with training a behavior. They don't know how to fade out their clicks, and they keep clicking and treating all the time. And sometimes that leads to getting less behavior of getting more behavior. And it's difficult to put a behavior on cue or stimulus control, and many more struggles. So they don't get the predictable results or the results they were expecting. Does that sound familiar? Well, I have been through all of this and more struggles. So I know how it feels until I learned to solve these problems in clicker training. It's about the trainer sometimes and not about the horse. And this is what most courses don't teach. What you have to change in order to get better results, faster results, and also feel better about yourself. My name is Sandra and I'm the founder of HippoLogic. I have a bachelor degree in animal management, and I was riding instructor for over 20 years in the Netherlands before I moved to Canada. And I started clicker training horses and teaching horse owners about horse behavior and training back in the 90s. And here you can see my first pony, Sholto, in the Netherlands. This is how I got him out of the pasture. In 2009, I tamed and trained my first wild horse in 3 weeks with positive reinforcement. And I am super passionate about sharing my knowledge with other horse lovers so they too can create an amazing bond with their horse. So what I did, and what one of the things is that I will teach you today, is how to track your progress and also how to stay self-motivated, because these pictures here are all pictures of one of my accomplishments that I had. This picture in the most right is the first time I could lead Kira over the premises. This was day number 1 that I am going to put her in the pasture. Look at my smile. I'm really like this, that I could lead her over the premises. Well, when I put her in the pasture, then she got it booted out of the pasture. She was super afraid, jumped into the ditch, and got stuck almost there. So anyway, here I'm still smiling. I did long reining with her here in the puddle. That was one of the first trail rides that I did with her in Canada. So that was super exciting. I trained Kira under saddle with positive reinforcement. And here is my son, Leon, that is riding my wild horse. Well, she's not wild anymore. So today I would like to share with you one of the most overlooked things if you want to be successful and happy in clicker training your horse, is that you need to use a system so you can create clarity for yourself and for your horse to get predictable successes in positive reinforcement training. So if you can give your horse clarity and the right amount of predictability, you take away his uncertainty and you can build trust very fast. And this is how you can bond with your horse in training. So the positive reinforcement training system I developed contains of 2 parts: the key lessons for trainers, which I will be talking about today, and I will explain that to you so you have something to learn. It's not all about telling you about my course. And the key lessons for horses. And the key lessons for horses are the basic behaviors your horse needs to master, and that will help you train every other behavior faster. So, what are the benefits of having a system in your training? And this is what I really want to share with you and the world, because I've seen so many people struggle in clicker training because they have no plan. And they think that go with the flow will bring them predictable successes. Well, when in fact, this approach often leads them further away from their goals. That's what happened to me. I was just going with the flow, and then after months, in the beginning, I didn't even realize it. Only after months, when I look back, I'm like, oh, I started one day, for instance, Spanish walk, and I didn't do it. And this is how I became aware that I really needed a system, because the moment I became aware that I had so many behaviors that were only half trained, the moment I became aware of that, I realized I was stuck, because usually we don't even realize that we are stuck in training. So if you go with the flow, yes, it's true that you have to listen to your horse in that moment and act on what he's telling you. But in order to end up with your goal behavior, you need to take the lead. And using a system that follows the natural training process and learning process from both you and your horse has many benefits. Because when you use a system, you always know your next step, which makes you in fact more flexible, because you'll be prepared if your horse takes a leap in training. And then you can anticipate right away to his unexpected progress. It's also easy to recognize if and where in the process you get stuck, because we all get stuck due to our horses get frustrated at moments we don't expect. Our horses get fearful for things we didn't know they were afraid of. One day I presented the target stick, and the horse that I was training was super afraid of that target stick. I have never encountered that before. So we all make mistakes in training, in our setup, our timing, our reinforcers, our reinforcement schedule, and we're all falling into the pitfall of lumping criteria from time to time. And we make training too difficult for our horses. And the difference between experience and expertise is that you can recognize this, because it happens always to all of us. And also how to course correct yourself if it happens. You don't stay stuck in training, and you don't get frustrated or angry at your horse anymore, and you don't feel desperation and the feeling that you will never ever accomplish your goal. Another reason to use a system is that you get predictable successes with my system, because it works, because it's based on the principles of learning and motivation. It's not based on rules. So let me explain what I mean by this. Rules are made up by people and don't apply always. Remember the exception that proved the rule? Well, if you work with principles, you have those exceptions too. You cover those exceptions too, because a principle is what the rules are based on. So why not work with those? A rule, for instance, is that you click and treat for everything the horse has done right. That's a rule and doesn't apply always. Because when the behavior is established, when the behavior is trained, you have to fade out the clicks and treats, which doesn't mean that you have to stop reinforcing the behavior. You can reinforce a behavior to keep it strong in many other ways than just with a click and treat. And you can reinforce behavior even with other desired behavior. So that's how you can click less and get more behavior. So the principle is that you have to reinforce behaviors once in a while to keep them strong. Having a system motivates people because with a system you always know where in the process you are, and more important, where you will go. You know when to expect to accomplish your goal and also how you will do it. And this is what I will be explaining in a minute. So as soon as you learned to trust that process, you'll be confident in your own skills, and that is an amazing feeling. You won't be bothered anymore by other people that are saying that clicker training is bribery or that you're spoiling your horse, because you know that once you've guided your horse through the whole process, he has learned the behavior, and that you can fade out your clicks and most of your treats. And then it doesn't look like treat training anymore. And you've bonded very strongly in the process in the meanwhile. So how's that for a bonus for horse training? And with a system, you provide clarity to your horse. Just like in good schools where the teacher has a proven concept in teaching the students the alphabet, reading and writing in a very logical way, this is a system that is developed to teach your horse new skills with positive reinforcement in a logical way. And all horses follow their natural learning process, and that's what this system is based upon. So this makes it very easy to understand for your horse, and learning will be faster and so much fun. So let's talk about the system, because the system I've developed is based on what I call the key lessons, because those are your keys to success. And in the HippoLogic training system, I work with key lessons for horses and key lessons for trainers. And today I will share the key lessons for trainers, because I think this is the most overlooked part of clicker training. The part of teaching people to clicker train horses. And this is just as important as teaching clicker training itself. If you understand the principles of learning and motivation, you can become autonomous. You can figure new challenges out by yourself without getting stuck at those points most others get stuck when they are clicker training. So let's take a look at the key lessons. So I always advise people to start with the end in mind. Create a training plan. The easiest way to explain a training plan is compare it with a vision board. So in this example, I will share what I had in mind when I got a wild 1-year-old horse that was born in a nature reserve, Kira. And my training plan was to train her, to tame her, to ride her, to even do demonstrations with our Andalusian show team, to make her a lesson horse, because I was a riding instructor at that time. So that was my training plan. So I wanted to do a lot of things with her in the future. So I was very clear about that. And this was not an easy process. I needed an accountability partner, which I had, and a mentor to figure this all out. And I already had a training plan before I got my horse, to be honest. Then I listed all the behaviors that are a part of my training plan. So the training plan is my vision board. That's the things that I wanted in my to be purchased horse. I didn't know that I would end up with a wild horse. So, but I wanted a horse that I could ride on, lesson horse, do demonstrations with. So those are all behaviors. So I wanted my horse to start under saddle, that kind of thing. So for Kira, I had to decide what to train first. And naive as I was like, okay, in order to ride my horse, I need to halter her, because that's one of the things that it started. So I decided to halter my horse. And I wrote a shaping plan for that, and that was based on the principles of learning and motivation. So that's based on the principles of learning and motivation is the learning quadrant, is what motivates your horse, because Kira didn't like apples. She didn't like to have me near. I was like an aversive already. So the principles of learning and motivation is broader than just the learning quadrant, because it's also because the motivation is really personal, because one horse likes carrots and the other horse doesn't. One works for scratches and another doesn't. So if you know, and if you base your training and your shaping plan on the principles of learning and motivation, there you have a very personalized plan. So once you have your shaping plan ready, I had to practice, because practicing is getting feedback off your horse. Well, I approached Kira with a halter and she tried to get away from me as fast as possible. She even tried to jump over the wall from her stall to get away from me. So that was very clear feedback. She didn't want to get haltered and she didn't want to have me near her. So this is where accountability is really, really important. I was lucky to have a friend and a mentor that really helped me, keeping me accountable and motivating me to keep going with this training process, because Kira was so afraid of people and everything human. Honestly, I thought, you know what, I'll give it 1 year. And if she's still like this, I have to figure out something else. But because I didn't know when to expect results. So every training I did, I evaluated my own training, and I wrote down the results in my training journal. And now I have a really specific way of writing in a training journal. In the beginning, it was more like a diary where I just described everything. But now I really have make it way shorter. What I do is I focus on 3 points that went really, really well in training, and then 1 point that is a failure. And failures to me are nothing to worry about, because I call them learning points. If you have 1 learning point every session, then you can focus the next session on that specific training point. And that's the way that you can really speed up your training process, by focusing on 1 thing only and not get distracted by 50 things that you think you need to improve. And also writing 3 things down that went well will really keep you into reality, because there's always things that go well, and we are so used to telling ourselves this went wrong, and before you know it, you're in a negative emotional spiral about your own skills. Oh. And then when you have practiced accountability, that's something that that you build in, and then you adjust, because you have your learning point for next time, and then you also have to deal, and it's this deliberately in the background, with emotions. That's one of the key lessons for trainers, because we are the ones that have to influence the emotions. We have positive emotions represented by the heart, and unfortunately there are also negative emotions that are at play in training. So Kira was super nervous. She was super afraid for me. I was a huge aversive. So I had to adjust my plan, and had to realize that first I needed to start with her being comfortable. Well, first of all, she needed to stay where she was instead of running away from me. And then she needed to be comfortable with me approaching her or her approaching me. So I had to adjust that plan, decide what to train first. Then I made a shaping plan for that. I went back to Kira, asked her opinion, I learned, I evaluated, I adjusted, and that's how my training went very, very fast. And because I had a training journal, because it was in 2009, otherwise I would have forgotten already, but I really tracked my training and everything I did. I wrote it down because I thought this is probably the only chance in my life that I get to train and tame a wild horse. So I tracked everything, and that's how I know that taming her only took me 3 weeks. But if you would have told me before the way she was, I would never ever have believed that. So if you have this training process with a training plan, all the underlined words are the key lessons for trainers. So a training plan, shaping plan, principles of learning and motivation, accountability, training journal, and dealing with emotions. And this all sounds super, super simple, but it's the implementation that can be a challenge. So imagine this. With a system, you have a clear vision of what you actually want to train. That's your training plan, instead of doing this one day and then doing something else the next day. And people do that because they get stuck in their training. They get stuck in training duration, putting it in queue, or their horse couldn't stop offering behavior and they got frustrated and stopped clicker training altogether. If you go on Facebook, you see examples of this happening all the time. And with a training plan, you always have something to train that supports your bigger goal. For me, because my bigger goal, my vision board with Kira was also to perform in our Andalusian show group, we had a part that was about trick training. So when the time when she was 2 and I couldn't ride her, I was doing trick training with the vision in mind that I could do this in one of the performances in the future. So if there was, for instance, a rainy day or it was really, really windy, I worked on despooking, because despooking would help me make her a good trail horse, would help me give me confidence when I would be riding on her in a performance. So everything that I did became, every training and every little thing that I trained was focused on supporting that bigger goal that I had. And that also saves you a lot of time and money, because if people were at my, later on when she was under saddle and other people were doing like an amazing clinic about jumping, and they were like, oh, do you want to join? And yes, of course, and everybody's doing it. But then I realized, like, what is my training goal? My training goal was focused on dressage and not jumping. So I could save the money that others spent on a clinic jumping and put it towards learning more about dressage and riding and trick training. So it also saved me a lot of time, because everything I did became focused on my training goals and my training plan. So that's about a clear vision. If you base your training on the principles of learning and motivation, you will be able to train everything with positive reinforcement, and you will improve the bond with your horse. You will also be able to follow a step-by-step shaping plan that you wrote yourself, and that brings you the results with ease without getting frustrated or creating frustration in your horse. The other day I had a workshop, shaping plans, writing your own shaping plans, because that was one module that I took out of Clicker Training Mastery. and made it into a separate workshop. So that was a lot of fun to do. You can set up your own accountability and have the support and courage to follow through with your plans and dreams, because we all get stuck on this. And if you can share your plans with somebody else, or write it down and plan your trainings and create your own accountability, that really helps you to stay motivated. So you can self-motivate because you can evaluate your training without criticizing yourself. And this is what your training journal is for. And how you do it, I just explained how you can do that. And that's based on helping my clients for the past 20 years. So this tool really motivates you and speeds up your learning process, because if you focus on one thing only the next training session, then it's way easier to get that one thing improved than if you have 5 things or maybe 10 things that you want to improve. You also learn to deal with negative emotions. Now you can recognize them and prevent them, because you know exactly how to set up your training and evoke positive emotions more and more. So that are the benefits of using a training system. So if you want to master positive reinforcement training, there are many ways that lead to Rome, and you can choose what suits you best. But let me share with what I have to offer. I offer a clear goal and a roadmap that you can follow. I teach a positive reinforcement training system that follows the natural learning process of people and horses, and that will help you bond with your horse. So in this program, Clicker Training Mastery, it's an 8-week online program. I teach you how to clicker train your horse, but also how to implement the knowledge, because many of you that are on this webinar now, you already know a lot about clicker training. But then the question is, yeah, you can know it, but are you doing what you know? So this is the part where having a coach really helps to implement the knowledge that you already have. I show you what you need to do in order to replicate your successes. How many of you had the question, wow, that's amazing, how have you trained this? And then you don't really know anymore. But if you know, because you write a shaping plan, you can always fall back on your shaping plan, and then the next horse that you train, or maybe somebody else that you want to help, you could say, well, I have a written plan here for you, and this is the steps that I went through. So you can use that as a basis for your next training your next horse. And also writing down, studies have proven that when you are writing down the things you do, it will be better. You remember it better, so that you can remember it at the moment that you most need that information. So I teach you a lot of trainer skills, the 6 key lessons for trainers, so you can become an autonomous trainer. What do I mean by that? I mean by that you know exactly where in the process you are stuck, because if you realize that part, then you also know how to get yourself unstuck. So this will help you, because there's still not enough clicker trainers in the world that you can just get the yellow pages and pick one that is near you. So I really started developing my course with the end in mind, that you could become autonomous trainers. I teach multiple techniques to train a behavior, because there's always more than one way that leads to Rome. And in this course, you get individual coaching for 8 weeks in a group. The individual coaching is that you send in your training videos, and you get your individual coaching on your videos. You can ask your questions, and we do this in a group, because people also learn by watching others. And the group learning is really an extra feature that will help you. So what do you get for in this 8-week program? There's 8 modules, and each module contains multiple short training videos that you can watch in your own time. I make sure that they are short, so it's not like one go of 2 hours video. So you can also look back easily and find, oh, what is it about duration, building duration, or putting a cue on behavior, and then you can easily find that back. All online course materials will stay available to you for future reference. If I update the course, and I'm always updating the course, you have access to all the new things. I've also live weekly classes for individual support and training, and a Facebook support group. And then every week on Saturdays, 2 hours online training. So let's go through this. It's individual coaching, 8 weekly 2-hour classes, access to replay, and all the principles. That would make an investment of $6,000. I'm not going to ask you $6,000. One of the benefits is also that you get an improved bond with your horse, and also lots of confidence in your own abilities to clicker train your horse. So what do I ask for this program? I price it at $9.97 Canadian dollars. But because you're on the live video, I have bonus for you, and that is a 72-hour bonus that I ask $7.97 for this program, and that bonus will go away on before September 14th. We start September 19th, and that's a Saturday. We start our live group coaching, and the doors are open if you want to join us. So if you want to join more, you can ask me anything. I will stop the recording and we can do a live Q&A